Welcome back. All right. So despite warnings from myself from the future that this is a bad idea, we're going to get back into ranking players. And we're going to rank goaltenders today. I want to rank the top 20 goaltenders as I see it heading into the 2025-2026 season. Now, I do this acknowledging goaltenders are, and the terminology that I like and I've kind of glommed onto is voodoo. Goaltenders from one game to the next, one week to the next, and especially one season to the next, very difficult to predict, but I'm going to do my best today. And so I'm wearing my Demko jersey. He's not in the top 20, and I don't have Lankin in the list either. Demko, it was a matter of he hasn't been healthy, and Lankinen's numbers just didn't add up to a top 20 goaltender. Honorable mentions as well. Stuart Skinner does not make the top 20. Skinner, yes, the Oilers get to the Stanley Cup Final. Skinner has some good games. He also has some rough games, and his overall stats, whether they're normal stats or advanced stats, don't add up to a top 20 spot. Freddie Anderson, I did not include in the top 20 because of the amount of times he gets injured during any given season. And an honorable mention, if I was going to 21, I'd go to Joey Daccord. Daccord had an excellent season. The advanced stats being that he saved 19.1 goals above expected, or 0.348 goals saved above expected per 60 minutes. Using the advanced stats, I think the analytics helps when it comes to goaltenders. I've discussed this before. So, with those honorable mentions aside, and the acknowledgement that Jeremy Swayman will not be in the top 20 this year, we move along to number 20, and for me at 20 from New Jersey is Markstrom. Now, I limited myself to one goaltender per team, which means that Jake Allen is not on this list. Jake Allen's numbers this past season, though, were ridiculous. So Markstrom gets into the top 20, but the fact that they have Markstrom and Allen, both of them with very strong numbers. In fact, Allen's numbers, one could argue, were better than Markstrom's, but that's where you get into the strength of opponents and all this other wonderful stuff. And then, again, as I'm getting ready for next season, I'm going to put Markstrom in as number 20. But Jake Allen had really, really strong numbers. Number 19 for Detroit, Gibson. So the funny thing is that between the two of Gibson and Talbot, Gibson had the better numbers. But Talbot, if not for the Madding Gibson, Talbot would have been the guy I put up there at number 19. So holding myself to the rule of just one goaltender per team, Gibson gets on the board. He had excellent numbers with an Anaheim Ducks team that was not great this past season, but he was very good. And so I think Gibson's going to get that starter's role in Detroit. I'd be very surprised if he does not, because Gibson is due for a very good year, and could be a reason why, if we do see Detroit make the playoffs in 2026, adding Gibson could be a huge part of that. Number 18, Vegas, Adin Hill. Adin Hill had a good season. Not necessarily a fantastic season, so getting into the stats on this. With Markstrom, 3.4 goals saved above expected, or 0.007 per 60 minutes. That number is a bit low, comparatively speaking, with some of the others on the board. Gibson, on the other hand, had 15.3 goals saved above expected altogether, 0.558 per 60 minutes. Incredible numbers there. And then for Adin Hill, 14.5 goals saved above expected, or 0.296 per 60 minutes played. Those numbers pulled from Money Puck. At number 17, and with Hill, of course, he does have that Stanley Cup victory in 2023, so there's that. At 17, Vejmelka. So Karl Vejmelka stays in Utah, and we'll see what he's able to do this year. But Vejmelka's numbers this past season, on the analytics side of things, Vejmelka ends up with 14.2 goals saved above expected, or 0.253 per 60 minutes. So Vejmelka, I'm comfortable with him at 17. I did have a bit of a debate with myself about between Vejmelka and Hill, and just gave Vejmelka a little bit of an edge there. Number 16, St. Louis. So I mentioned Skinner as like an honorable mention and explained why Skinner's not on the list. But Jordan Binnington is another one of those goaltenders that his numbers can be good, not necessarily great. But then you look at Four Nations, and when he was needed in that big final game, he played really, really well. So for me with Binnington, Binnington's numbers, 5.3 goals saved above expected, 0.098 per 60 minutes. So his advanced stats, not as good as a few of the others behind him, but because he's able to win in big games, I have Binnington at number 16. Whereas I know there are still people in Blues fandom that see him as a top 10 goaltender. And the final of Four Nations stands there. So we'll see if Binnington ends up playing for Canada at the Olympics and what the plan is going forward. I don't think they can keep him off the team considering what happened at Four Nations. So Binnington's probably going to be the starter for Canada again. Number 15, a Canadian team. The Ottawa Senators, their starter, Linus Ullmark. Ullmark had a good year and gave them the goaltending they needed to break that drought when it came to the playoffs. He had 13.8 goals saved above expected, or 0.336 goals saved above expected for every 60 minutes played. So Ullmark's a good goaltender. We know that from Buffalo, from Boston, and for Ottawa now. Will he make his way around all the other Atlantic Division teams? We'll see. Not this year, but maybe eventually, right? Just sign with everybody. Just go to every Atlantic team, and then you've got this weird record nobody else would have. Number 14, another Atlantic Division team. It's Toronto. And since I only have one goaltender from each team, I went with Stolarz. Stolarz missed time with injury, but his numbers are ridiculous. 25.8 goals saved above expected, or a league best 0.779 goals saved above expected per 60 minutes played. Stolarz gave Toronto excellent goaltending when he was healthy, while Woll is a good goaltender as well. And much like I mentioned here with Detroit, if Woll had been one that I said, you know what, I'll allow 2 goalies per team, Woll very likely to end up in the top 20. But I'm sticking with the ones that I think will be the starters this year. And so I'm going with Stolarz, who's in the final year of a contract with a cap hit of $2.5 million. That's a fantastic bargain of a contract when you look at Stolarz overall numbers. Number 13, Gustafsson. So with the retirement of Marc-Andre Fleury, it is definitely Gustafsson's net, and there's some discussion about Wallstedt as the backup and all of this. I think Wallstedt will be okay. I know he didn't have a great season last year, but Gustafsson was excellent. 15.3 goals saved above expected, 0.268 goals saved above expected per 60 minutes played. Goaltending should not be a major issue for the Minnesota Wild this year. I am doing the video on Minnesota tomorrow. Only have 3 teams left to talk about, so I have Florida, Minnesota, and Dallas are the last 3 teams remaining. And yeah, I saved the ones for last that, in Florida's case, they're the Stanley Cup champions, so I've already done a couple videos on them since the Cup win. But for Minnesota, I'll be talking about them tomorrow. And Gustafsson, I think, is one of the better goaltenders in the NHL. Number 12. And I with 12, I think Dostal has an opportunity here to maybe be a top 10 goaltender this season. I will say this with Dostal. 14.3 goals saved above expected, 0.281 goals saved above expected per 60 minutes. His numbers dropped in that second half of the season. They were fantastic in the first half. But Dostal, I think, as the starting goaltender in Anaheim, is going to make a lot more believers as the years go by, out of fans all over the league. And yeah, he's been quite good for Anaheim for a few years now. And I do expect Dostal to have a really strong season for an Anaheim team that could be seen as a dark horse in the West to maybe make some noise come playoff time. At the very least, not necessarily being in the playoffs, but being close enough to it that maybe they're not selling so much at the deadline. Number 11, Montreal's Sam Montembeault. Montembeault had an excellent season, and I don't know if he's going to be able to follow that up with another. I don't know if he can be as good as he was this past season. 24.6 goals saved above expected is ridiculous, as is 0.418 goals saved above expected per 60 minutes. So Montembeault just outside the top 10. The Montreal Canadiens goaltending looks pretty solid between he and Dobesh, and I do expect that to be the tandem this year for the Montreal Canadiens. I don't think Kakkonen gets into that backup spot. I think that belongs to Dobesh, and so Montreal, Montembeault in pretty good shape, and we'll see if Montreal ends up being a playoff team again. If they get into the playoffs back-to-back years, that says something right there. Number 10, and I did kind of have a debate with myself about Wolf. Wolf is definitely an excellent goaltender who should get better this year. He's got his rookie season under his belt. he should improve a little bit more this year. Wolf saved 11.9 goals above expected, or .224 goals saved above expected per 60 minutes. And I do think that Dustin Wolf is an excellent starting goaltender, having seen what he was able to do for the Wranglers. Now he's doing for the Flames. They didn't draft him because he was short. I still don't understand that. I don't get it. Number 9 on the list from Colorado, it is Mackenzie Blackwood. So after escaping San Jose and going to Colorado, he carried on what was a really strong season he'd been having in San Jose. So for Blackwood, 13.3 goals saved above expected, or .248 goals saved above expected per 60 minutes. That is a combination of his time in San Jose and Colorado. He got an extension from Colorado, which he immediately lived up to. And I do like the odds of Blackwood and the Avs maybe ending up first this year. There's always that possibility. We'll see how Blackwood does in his first full season as the starter for the Colorado Avalanche, but I don't see any reason to expect anything but excellence from him. At number 8, I've talked about Jake Oettinger before. Oettinger at times looks like the best goalie in the league. He does. He can have stretches where he's the best goalie, and then he has his struggles. He had his struggles against Edmonton, as most of Dallas did, especially late in that series. But Oettinger, to me, is still one of the top 10 goalies in the league. Now, Ottinger's numbers here are 10.7 goals saved above expected, or .188 goals saved above expected per 60 minutes. Honestly, lower than a lot of the others on the board, but I do think with Oettinger playing in Dallas, and as he's getting older here, I do expect his numbers to get better. And they were already good coming into this season. I just expect him to be that much better this year, especially with the fact that, Dallas has been so close to a Stanley Cup final, and they've just missed out. I expect that to maybe a little bit of a fire there for Jake Oettinger this season, and maybe a little bit of that for the Dallas Stars too. That would be nice. Number 7, and this is the one where I kind of paused. So Darcy Kemper had an amazing season for the Kings. Darcy Kemper's also in his mid-30s, so will he continue that this season? Valid question to ask. He had 22.5 goals saved above expected, or .454 goals saved above expected per 60 minutes. The playoffs, he was still okay in the playoffs. He wasn't bad against Edmonton. It was a rough series for LA altogether against Edmonton. The goaltending didn't really help or hurt in that round. So for Kemper, I think 7th is the right spot for him, keeping in mind that his numbers were fantastic. I don't know how this is the one that I'm concerned with. I didn't want to drop Kemper down to say 11th or 12th based on him being older than other goaltenders, because to me that's not a reason necessarily to drop somebody. A forward, you can understand it because they do diminish in terms of their scoring ability as they get older, especially in the mid-30s. But goaltenders can play well into their late 30s. So I'm giving Kemper the benefit of the doubt and leaving him at 7th. At 6th, it is Logan Thompson. Thompson had an excellent season for the Caps, and then he had a really good playoff too. So for Logan Thompson, 26 goals saved above expected, or .615 per 60 minutes played. Logan Thompson has proven himself as an excellent starting goaltender. I'm going back to it again. I know. He wanted the trade out of Vegas. He wanted the trade out of Vegas, I think, because he wasn't going to be the starter in Las Vegas. I still think he should have been the starter for Las Vegas. Just my honest opinion. I totally, I'm glad he's in Washington and doing well, but I'm still surprised that Vegas didn't find a way to hold on to him, because he is a very good goaltender. At number 5. Now, the overall numbers for Sorokin were not Sorokin-like for parts of this year, but by the end of the year, he was pretty good. 17.5 goals saved above expected, or .3 goals saved above expected per 60 minutes. And I do remember at certain times this past season where Sorokin's numbers weren't fantastic. But yeah, by the end of the year, very good numbers, doing his best to keep the Islanders in contention for a playoff spot. And if the Islanders are going to jump back into a playoff spot, Sorokin is going to have to be a world beater again. So we'll see if he gets there, but for me, Sorokin is a top 5 goaltender in the National Hockey League. Anybody wondering, yes, Logan Thompson would be the highest rated Canadian goaltender on the board. That is a continuing discussion about goaltending in Canada and all that. And this top 5 kind of shows you why. Number 4, yep, got to mention the New York Rangers goaltender here, don't I? And of course, it's Igor Shesterkin. Be weird if it was Jonathan Quick. Not that Quick had an awful year, but Igor Shesterkin this past season, 21.6 goals saved above expected, or 0.37 goals saved above expected per 60 minutes. Considering what a misadventure of a season the New York Rangers had, those numbers are pretty good. Igor, whenever he has a bad game, it gets overblown, I think, a little bit. And I think with his contract, there's always going to be that criticism anytime he does have a bad game. But he is still one of the best goaltenders in the National Hockey League. And while the Rangers had a rough year, Shesterkin did not have a rough year. Like I said, the advanced stats show you 21.6 goals saved above expected. Just to put that into perspective, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. There are only 7 goalies on this list that had 20 or more goals saved above expected. So that's a good season. Number 3. And I went back and forth on this. I did. So I'm putting up Hellebuyck. Now, if this was just based on regular season and we were just, talking about the best goalie in the league during the regular season, it's Connor Hellebuyck. 39.6 goals saved above expected, or 0.635 goals saved above expected per 60 minutes. His numbers are ridiculous. Absolutely ridiculous. However, the issues he's had in the playoffs the last couple of years, I do feel like weigh him down. And so until we see his playoff numbers get better, I think Hellebuyck at the 3rd spot is probably the right spot for him. So you guys can let me know your thoughts. I know that the comment section will, but for me, Hellebuyck gets the 3rd spot. 2nd spot, the runner-up for the Vezina Trophy this year, and that is Andrei Vasilevskiy. Andrei Vasilevskiy, his numbers this year were great. 29.2 goals saved above expected, or 0.468 goals saved above expected per 60 minutes. So Andrei Vasilevskiy continues to give Tampa Bay excellent goaltending. I don't see any reason that would change this year at all. So with that, from 20 until 2, who goes to number 1? It has to be Bob. And so this is where honestly it's a matter of Florida's won 2 Stanley Cups in a row. Bobrovsky's been the goaltender of record for both of them, and when they need a win, he gets it for them. His playoff performance in 2025 was absolutely amazing to watch. 2024, he was excellent as well. Now, when you look at his numbers, 7.2 goals saved above expected this past regular season, 0.135 goals saved above expected per 60 minutes. The numbers aren't great. But the interesting thing is, Bobrovsky, much like the rest of his brethren with the Florida Panthers, when they need that big game performance, they get it. It's why Bennett was so high on that number 4 draft picks video I did yesterday. And Bobrovsky ends up first on the list for me right now. Because if you need to win a Game 7 of a series, Bobrovsky, I think, is your pick. And so that's one of the criteria that I use here is, if I'm in a Game 7 situation, who would I want? Hopefully Demko has a nice bounce-back season and he's on the board next year, but he's got to have a good, healthy season first. Bobrovsky, for me, is number 1 on the list. So there you go. Be very not scientific. There's some vibes involved in this as well, but trying to rank top 20 starting goaltenders in the NHL, it's tricky. So let me know your thoughts in the comments section below. As always, hit like and subscribe in the event you may not have done so already. Thank you guys so much for all your support. It's greatly appreciated. I will talk to you again soon.